Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Class 1A podcast for season 5, episode 4. We are finally getting grooving. We are finally getting moving. And man, is it good to finally see a fight again in My Hero Academia. We got it teased last week, but I think we are safe to say we're into the season so far. What do you guys think?
It's incredible. I was waiting for these fights for so long, and they're living up to the hype.
Yeah, it's one thing to see them, like, on paper, and you're like, "How are they gonna do it? How are they gonna translate it? How are they gonna put it on screen?" And they did it masterfully. So, it's good to see. I'm happy that, especially our fight where you don't have so many main characters, you have a couple. It's nice to see that they're all getting, like, the proper animation attention.
No.
Yeah, because this is the one thing about reading the manga is, Horikoshi writes an awesome story and his drawings are incredible. But the one thing you always wait for in the anime is to see the fights, right? Like this
Of
is
course,
this is
yeah.
what we come to anime to see.
No, I completely agree. But if you guys do not already know, my name is Andrew Nimsgren, and alongside me, I have Dylan Beal and James Graham. Well, we're going to break down everything that happened in this episode, have a couple of other random topics, and just kind of giving our general thoughts on the series. And most importantly, each and every episode is going to start with a recap. And just because this is the first, let's say, fight recap I'm going to do, I want to just kind of make it clear, I'm not going to try to do the justice of explaining fight recaps. You guys probably just watch the episode. You're about to watch the episode. And if you haven't watched the episode, listen to it. Pause, go watch the episode, then come back, because this is all going to be full of spoilers. And then I don't need to fully recap a fight for you guys, because the animation does so much more justice. But before I do jump into that short recap, please make sure to follow us on YouTube. Leave a 5-star subscription on any podcast services that you're listening to. Interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, whatever you guys kind of want to do. We love interaction. We're obviously looking for any kind of growth in all these platforms as we're putting out more My Hero content than ever during season 5. So if you enjoy this or anything else, you can find us on pretty much any platform you're looking for. Go leave us a follow and keep up to date with all of our content. But let's jump into the season 5 recap, where basically the episode just starts with a short recap of everything that happened in the last episode, catching us up on the beginning of the joint training arc, and pretty much getting us almost right to where last episode ended, and then the opening theme jumps in. After that, we get a little bit of a flashback to right before the fight started, where Shinso is re-explaining his quirk. We get a little bit of a flashback back to when he first fought Deku. He can only really do one person at a time. They can just be knocked out by a little bit of shock to their body. And then also kind of going through his persona chords, which basically is a voice changer that allows him to simulate and change his vocal cords, because he can't do it through a megaphone or anything like that, to sound like other people, because if anyone knows what his quirk is, they just don't answer him, and it has no effect on people. But Class 1A runs out of time, and the fight begins, and we jump right back to where we are with the Beast Titan, aka Shishida, overlooking Kaminari, and Shinso, where Shinso does brainwash him. But Shinso is a little slow to react. He gets put into air prison, and then Shishida just goes to town on everyone there. However, Sue does grab Subabara and starts to run away, and Kirishima finally gets up after being knocked out for like a minute, breaks Kota out. They have a really good moment to try and stop him, and then they both just get tricked out of their mind. Kirishima gets yeeted and knocked up, and then Kota gets taken away and locked up as well. But luckily, Sue does get Subabara locked up, so it is going to be 2-1. I just need to make it out. We'll talk about this later. But Subabara loves the tongue, and that is a very important thing to take away from this episode. So now that it is 2-1 with Class 1B in the lead, the remaining members of Class 1A and Shinso have a short discussion about how they like each other, blah, 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 blah. And they seem to come up with a plan at that moment and go on the offensive when Shishida does smell 3 Sues heading their way. Kirishima then gets purposely captured by Vine as a distraction, and then Shinzo does end up brainwashing Shiozaki, and Sue beats the shit out of the edgy Dragon Boy. Shishida then charges at Shinso, knowing that they're the only one else, and not communicating with his teammate at all because he doesn't want to get brainwashed again. Shinso does try to stop him with a branding cloth, bringing a metal pipe down on his head, but it wasn't enough. When all of a sudden, Shishida starts hearing people talking to him from behind, yelling, "Dodge, watch out," all this kind of stuff, and he just thinks it's all a trick. But all of a sudden, Sue yeets the edgy Dragon Boy into the back of Shishida, and Class 1A wins the day. So, general thoughts about the fight. I know we've already read through the manga. We already kind of knew the outcome. Even after the last episode, we wanted to know who won this fight. So kind of going into this episode, we knew what the outcome was going to be. But did the fight live up to it? Not even the characters or anything kind of like that. But just was this a fun fight to watch?
I think so. I thought it was a really good display of like what Shinso had, and I never complained about seeing Denki and his electricity animated. So
It was nice seeing Denki like he's really doubled down into his whole shtick, which is like everybody's scared the crap out of me, so I'm just gonna make myself a target all the time, right? And it's nice that there's enough to character development with him that he recognizes the role he plays and he just embraces it, right? I was really concerned to see how they were gonna animate this because I remember reading through it in the manga. I was like, they make Shishida like this like unstoppable force in the manga. Like if he felt so like how do you beat him, right? So I was really curious how they were going to do it, and I think they did a pretty good job. I like he did feel more like the main character on the 1B's team. Like he did feel like the real threat, and I think they did a super good job just bringing that to the screen.
No, yeah, he was so much cooler than I remember him being. It's been a long time since I read through these chapters. And I'm sure during those chapters, I'm like, damn, he's cool. Because this is one of the first things of the manga I actually read. But I forgot just how dominant he was in this fight. But it also goes to show how well Shinzo kind of plays into being on the field and kind of what Deku was saying at the end. That just by Shinzo being in the battle was able to completely control the field because you can't really communicate too much easily with teammates, and that's ultimately how they ended up winning. So I thought the overall fight was super fun to watch. I am a little surprised by the pacing, that I think this is going to be a lot longer arc than we were talking to last week. Now, we thought there was going to be a fight and a half, maybe at the minimum this episode. We got a full fight here. And I definitely think, just remembering that, I think next week's episode, definitely kind of teasing the Hawk stuff and this complicated plan around Kendo. I think every fight's going to be an episode plus.
I think
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean,
But
the
I'm not
Deku one's for
complaining,
sure
though.
going to be multiple.
Yeah,
Because
I'm
he's
definitely
Deku.
not complaining because if they're at this quality, each one of them, that is going to be incredible. Like the overall arc is just going to be, it's going to be one of my favorites if that's the case.
Yeah, I think I'm sure Horikoshi did this deliberately when he made these teams up, that there's main characters or characters who have enough screen time on every team that it makes it so an episode plus is warranted, right? So yeah, I think we're gonna see that for every fight, which is sick, right? It's great.
No, yeah. So before we get into kind of our general, like our more broad topics on this, you guys have a couple of favorite moments. I mean, no, I like my favorite one is Deku kind of like seeing, like, don't worry, Class 1A has him. And then Kirishima gets up and you think he's just going to have this badass moment. He goes rock hard, breaks Koda out, then faces the Beast Titan. He's on screen for like a minute this entire episode, did nothing, but he had the most hype from Deku ever, which I respect. Like Deku having faith in him, but I just thought that was completely not what I was expecting when he got up.
So I actually really like that because I think it puts like the power scale of class like together and actually kind of like crushes them up. So we know that they're all really powerful because in the end of season 4, right? We get like 3 episodes of like Kirishima being like this ultra badass, super strong, and he is. Don't get me wrong, he is absolutely. But so is the rest of like the class, and so is the rest of UA. I think this kind of puts that in perspective a little bit, and I really like that. I thought it was really cool.
Like on top of that too, it actively shows that Shishida like respects the amount of strength that Kirishima has. That he's like, okay, I gotta just get him out of here entirely, right? So he just yeets him into Vine, right? So I think like it's nice to see that they actively like recognize how like Dylan said, like how the power scaling is and how strong everybody is and like what the threats are, right? Because like as soon as Kirishima's gone, it's right to Denki, and they're terrified of Denki too, right?
So
Yeah.
another thing that I noticed that I really liked was on the like the commercial screens, like the coming back from commercial screens for Shinzo's. It says that he really likes cats, like that was his likes. And I just want to call this out because it's not apparent in My Hero proper, but they go into it a little bit in Vigilantes. Which, if you haven't read Vigilantes, please go read Vigilantes. It's wonderful. But Aizawa really likes cats.
I think it says it on his title card too, though.
Really,
Like early on, I'm
I
pretty
think
sure
it-
it
I
said
think
it.
it
He
does,
likes
yeah.
cats.
yeah, but so I think that's like another parallel between the two that I really liked. I thought it was a really cool thing. I just wanted to make sure that we recognized it before.
Oh no, he
before we
gives
get
off
past too quick.
serious Aizawa. Maybe because they're working together, he has a binding cloth. He kind of has that rugged, like whatever kind of attitude. So, but he's basically a baby Aizawa at this point, and I don't think anyone's upset with that. But I guess with that, also, like, really, Suwabara, like the tongue is what gets you going.
Subaru's my boy now, man. Like,
I had a
was
feeling
like-
you two DJs would like that, but I'm like, really?
That was such a funny scene.
But like, I love like, despite the fact he had such little screen time, they played into his quirk a lot too. That they're like, holy shit! Like, I remember this being so much weaker at
Yep.
the sports festival, right? Like, the man can make some solid prisons now, right? And I thought it was really funny watching Shinzo try and break out of it. Like, I don't know why it was so funny watching him because he just
Yeah, like a
keeps
little bit
doubting.
comical. He was just
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess kind of talking about his air prison, unless you guys have any other little moments, it's kind of a good transition point to kind of going into the first real topic we want to talk about today, which is just kind of going through the names, hero names, quirks, general discussion about the 4 Class 1B members that we got today. So, Dylan, why don't you kind of lead us on that? Because I know you kind of had that a lot prepared, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing that we got was we got 3 big call outs for this one. So we got like whole title cards and everything for these characters. So we got Vine, Quirk Vine, uh, Galvadin, I think that's how you
Yeah.
pronounce it. His quirk being Beast, Dragon Shroud, his being Scale Bullets. And actually, I don't think we got
I don't
one
think his
for
quirk was actually scale bullets, was it? It was just scale.
It was just scale. It
oh
was
Because he's
Scale.
able to shoot
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, it's so it's Scale, but they're Scale Bullets.
Yeah.
And is it Subara?
Yeah,
Did-
Suaburaba.
Yeah,
Suaburaba. Yeah.
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 Did we actually get a name for him during
No,
this?
we
'Cause I know
didn't get his actual hero name. We
yeah,
didn't
because
get
his quirk is like solid air, like he makes like a cage out of air, but I don't think we got a special name for him during this one.
No, we didn't get his hero name.
So before we dive into like, breaking apart all these characters, let me give you some fun facts because I got some fun facts about these characters. Vine, originally her hero name was Maria. It was in like I think an old like school data book that they released before like 1B really was fleshed out at all. Obviously Maria being in homage to like her whole religious shtick that she has. Um, and Galvadin, the reason why his name is that is for the beast of Galvadin, which is like kind of like a cryptid sort of back in like France in the 1700s. Basically what happened is there was like a bunch of wolf attacks around and people like died from these like packs of wolves attacking people, and it was like a myth of like this like wolf dog human hybrid that went around and killed like all these people. So that is why he's named Galvadin, is for the beast of Galvadin.
That's kind of cool,
Wow.
actually.
His
Yeah.
his is way more thought out than I thought it would be. Because I mean, they were calling him Apocalypse Beast too.
I like Apocalypse.
Which is
Beast,
still, I think, still a better name, but
it might be. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I
And
guess
then we get Dragon Shroud, dude. Then we get Dragon Shroud, who's
I think his quirk is cool, and like so before I forgot what his quirk was. So like scales, like kind of look like dragon scales a little bit. Like it makes a little bit more sense of where he kind of comes from in the shroud because he likes the ninja aesthetic or whatever. So like I give him a little more credit than just like knowing straight up. If you just hear the name Dragon Shroud, I'm like, oh, this kid's trying way too hard. But it does kind of work with his quirk and the aesthetic he's picked. So I'm not gonna give him too much of time. I called him edgy boy in that because I still see him as that, but it's better than just when we were looking through the names like last week after the episode, just kind of talking through it, bullshitting. I give him a little bit more credit now.
I like Rin, man. I think he's like the big thing was like how he was working with his team and he was like genuinely trying and he seemed to be the most level-headed out of the 3 of them. Like the other ones really like draw into their aesthetic almost like too much, you know what I mean? Like Vine and Shiobara, right? Like they both like just double down on it, and Rin's just there. He's like, I just want to win, guys. Like,
Yeah.
so.
And I guess
But no.
kind of going along with the gimmicks of Class would be, I want to talk about Vine a little bit more and kind of dive more into that.
let's talk about Vine.
Let's talk about Vine.
I totally forgot that this whole religious stick was like her thing, like her defining feature is this talking to God and the spotlight moments, all that kind of stuff. The poor sheep falling from the sky. Like, I don't know if it clicks with me. I'm pretty sure we got a small part of this kind of during like the school festival. I like the fighting arc or whatever, but I'm not a fan of it. It's not clicking with me. I think there's like one or two too many references this episode. I think if you just pulled back one less spotlight moment, it might click with me a little bit more. But I didn't love it.
Nope, I'm fully on board with this. I don't know if it's the fact that like it has that like it's not like a direct homage to it. It's like that weird, like, partially, like, JRPG, like, talking about it of where they take it and they just, like, run with it over the top. Like, when Denki, like, jumps at her and she just, like, crucifixion and, like, does the special move, that rules. That is so cool. I'm 100% on board with it. I don't know why, I just like the gimmick. I think it's really funny, especially when it's incorporated into the moves too. I thought it was really cool. Like, what was it? The Shield of Faith.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That rules.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. I hope we get more of her. I
Oh,
like
of
her
course
stuff.
you
I think
do.
it's funny.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the only reason why you want more of her. James, what do you think?
I mean, I'm pretty indifferent. I hate to like split the line, but I'm just like there's I feel like I've watched enough anime and I've read enough manga that there's always a character like this that I'm just like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, it's a check in the box, right? Like we've got this character now, she's out of the way. But like you know what? And I think more so is that she's insanely powerful too.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things that draws like just it kind of like makes me like look over. If she was like shitty and she had this stick, I'd be like, all right, this is way more annoying. But she's like super strong, so
No, and I
run with
agree. And
it.
I'm not saying it ruined the episode by any means. I don't think it took away from the episode, but it didn't add on to that. I think there's other gimmicks they could have gone with from like all the other characters in the show, like in the Kirishima gimmicks and stuff like that. Like I would have rather gotten 2 or 3 Kirishima dumb moments during this than the 2 or 3 moments we got from Vine and her religious kind of gimmick. So that's just kind of what I'm saying, that it could have been better, but it didn't ruin the episode for me at all. But
I want to know really quick about what was going on with Koda's like insect punch. I want to know what
that would have been cool.
I want to know what the
Yeah.
deal was there, right? And like so on top of that, that also showed that Shishida has a really good control of
I was just
flipping
about to
back and
go
forth.
over to that. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was kind of I was kind of shocked because I couldn't remember if he had like if it was like a switch he kind of flipped and he was had in total control of it, but he literally like he did it right in that moment, right?
Yeah, I
So
forgot too. I thought it was like a full body like just transformation of him. That I
yeah,
forgot that he could kind of go big and small, which makes sense because he's huge. Like my second time through watching when he was standing with the other two, he looks like he's like 6'8", like 400 pounds. He looks
yeah,
huge compared to the other two of them. So I forgot really how big that is of that transformation. They don't in some of the shots. It doesn't really show that a lot of the time with like the height difference and size difference, but he is huge.
yeah, he's a
Yeah,
big
I
lad.
really like his ability because normally what you would think about for this quirk is, you have a mode where you just turn into this big beast and you just go crazy. But he actually has like hyper intelligence when he's in this mode, and like he is like
Yeah,
like
there's no
he's a little more
drawbacks.
aggro. Yeah, he's a little more aggro than normal, but like
Yeah,
he has like full control over it, which I think is really cool. I think it's a good way to take like like a kind of a boring trope and really make it interesting.
No, yeah, and I agree. I completely agree, and I love that. And even the kind of that goes along with Dragon Trout as well. It's like, oh, like he's kind of another reinforcing quirk, but scales are a lot easier. I mean, he can cover his body in scales wherever he wants to kind of reinforce his body, like Hiroshima and Tetsu. But also, he's found a way to shoot them off
shoot
his
them.
body as well. I mean, that's a cool way that it could have just been a third Tetsu slash Hiroshima. No
Yeah,
problem. It still could have worked, but he would have looked at Dragon. He had the ninja kind of aesthetic. Like it still would have worked. But the fact that they found a way, like how to design his quirk to make it just a little bit different and cooler, even though it seems very basic. He's not a character that's going to stick out with me. He's not someone I'm going to think about ever, like when doing top 10 list or something kind of like that. But he still got a really cool moment here, and his quirk deserved recognition, which I think we're going to get with almost everyone in Class 1B. If it's based off how this episode is going to go, everyone is going to be really cool going forward.
yeah. It adds another layer, right? That's the big thing, and that's what you want from the almost basic quirks, right?
Yeah, but I think the next thing, kind of now that we have that, and even going with the shooting boats and all that kind of stuff, is just the overall animation of this episode. I don't want to hand it back to you, Dylan, but like we kind of talked through the topics we want to do beforehand, and this was one that you really wanted to talk through today. So I'll kind of let you lead of what you wanted to say.
Yeah, I think there was a couple different components into it, but the first one I really want to go into was how they animated the fights because I think it was I think it's a big topic going on in anime right now is animation and like the use of CG and the use of just like hand drawing all this, and it's pretty contentious. Especially since I think Attack on Titan is like the big one right now.
Yeah.
Is they use like I think rotoscoping CG. I think that's what they use for some of their fights. and it looks good, but like people are just super against CG. To put it in perspective, CG is like way, way, way cheaper to do than actually doing like standard hand drawn animation. And I think this was a good example of them using it in such a way that you don't really notice it fully. So the points where they used it were on a lot of the vines and a lot of the backgrounds, actually. So whenever they would be a fight, they would kind of blur the background a little bit, but they would use the CG there, and they would, hand animate some of the main like fight moments, but also switch and have these like really fluid shots as well. So I think a lot of this was around Denki. So if you saw a lot of like his movements and a lot of moments of him going up against Galvadin, he would have like these really smooth transitions whenever he was turning his head, and I love that. I thought it looked so good. Like it was really incredible. I was very, very impressed.
No, I think I guess I didn't even notice CGI. I'm still not at the point where I can kind of tell the difference. The one time where I could kind of tell and I didn't think it looked great was when the vines were crawling out on the red background. That was the one time that it just seemed a little wonky to me. But when they were climbing through the pipes and all that, I thought that looked amazing. So I mean, again, I can't really tell too much of the difference at this point. I mean, I watched the whole season of Attack on Titan. I couldn't really. There's like maybe one moment the entire season I could tell like, oh, that looked a little weird. But overall, I mean, I think it all looked great. Everything from start to finish was fluid, and there wasn't any. You were talking about like, oh, one moment he's turning his head hand drawn, and the next moment it's fluid. Like that's all still fluid going between the two different animation styles, and it
Mhm.
completely worked for me. Someone might have an issue with it, but for me, as a little bit more of a hardcore fan that have watched the episode 3 times already since release, I have not noticed anything bad.
Like the only thing you noticed was how good it looked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I know anything for you to add, James.
Oh, I was just gonna say that, like, after trying to watch the new Berserk, I'm like hard in against like any 3D animation like ever. So if it looks like it's there, I'm just like like this, like because I understand it's cheaper for animation studios to do this, like because like I mean you got to cut costs somewhere sometimes, but like a lot of these shows have like done so much better because of like how well they're hand drawn and animated, right?
And it's probably saving on production time too. I'd
Probably,
imagine
yeah,
it's a little quicker. I mean, especially where we're expecting there to be 5 to 6 fighting episodes minimum in this arc. That's not even accounting for what we know is coming down there, which is going to be just as wild, if not more wild, of animation. So, I mean, it could have been another 3, 4 months if everything was hand drawn. It might have been a fall 2021 show. I mean, so like as long as it still looks good and fluid like that, I mean, maybe I don't know, like if I do another rewatch or something like that, I'll try to pay a little close attention to animation and see if I can really spot the difference. But if they keep this quality going forward with maybe one moment each episode sticking out, I'm okay with that because I don't expect every single frame of every episode to be perfect. I'd rather
Yeah.
get that than wait another 6 months.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I definitely just want to wrap this up by saying like this is like I think a really good example of how to do it and how to do it really well. Because now, like you were saying, their production time isn't going to be insane. Because in anime, like a drawing and like animation is notoriously like underpaid as is. Like,
Mhm.
so
yeah,
I think using moments like this, and if they could integrate 3D like into some of these to really cut down on those costs and time, I'm all for it. I think animation needs to be way more sustainable than it currently is. So I'm really happy they're doing this. And the
yeah,
other parts of it that I really liked was this. We were talking about the special lettering for 1B a little bit, and also the use of like onomatopoeia with a lot of the moves was incredible. Like I loved it because it was like it looked like a comic book, right? Like an animated comic
yeah.
book, and it just looked really cool. I loved having it in the fight actually.
Yeah. One
Yeah.
one final point in regards to the animation. I think if they start using the 3D animation for things that we've already seen hand drawn and you start to see that change, you know what I mean? Like you notice this a lot in anime that like changes studios and stuff like that. Like I mean, I think One Punch Man is like one of the most notorious ones where they completely switched studios and the quality of like the animation and like the 3D became very blatant stuff like that. But I think if we start seeing very like noteworthy things like for example, and it was mentioned in the upcoming episode, like Dark Shadow's getting like a decent amount of attention. If you start seeing Dark Shadow animated in 3D to save costs and stuff like that, that's when people are going to be like, like, I don't want to see that, right? So I think as long as they 3D the things they can and keep the things that have been hand drawn, I think we're fine. I think we're safe.
Yeah, and then I guess that's kind of a come as it goes. I mean, I don't really know reason to really talk about it before it actually happens with Dark Shadow specifically, because this episode was fine. But I think
Yeah.
the last big topic is Shinso kept saying, "I am so far behind," and everyone kind of during the episode that he was fighting against said, like, "No, you're actually not that far behind." So she just said it like, You say you're so far behind, but you're actually a frightening one." And Sue and Kirishima were both saying how good he was doing. Like, so many people were kind of talking about how strong he is. So, where do we think? Do we think he's still behind? Do we think he's ready for the hero course? And if you think he's a little behind still, what does he kind of need to do? He has one more fight that is going to kind of prove that he's ready to join the hero course for you.
Do you think that he has imposter syndrome?
I don't get it.
Oh no.
Imposter because he does the voice and
I'm not a fan of the joke.
You don't
No.
it doesn't land with you. I thought it was good. Like I thought
yeah, it was
all
good.
right.
Come on,
No,
give it
I
to
just
me,
purposely
Andrew.
try to ignore any of Dylan's jokes because I don't want to ever give
I
him
thought
credit.
that was good. That was a good job, man. I like that. That was all right.
I don't know. I think it's a little difficult because every time we've seen him, he always has a really good performance, and like he works well with the group. I definitely would like to see the little moments of like training that we get with 1A normally. Like we see them off like developing their skills, and we get to see like where their weak points really are. I want to see that more with Shinzo. I want to see where he's like really weak.
Yeah, because they're like, here he is. He's Aizawa light, and that's all we get, right? I think the big thing is that you can see that he's like a little hesitant on physical confrontation. You know what I mean? He requires a bit of setup. But I mean, like, I'll say I've said this once. I'll say it again. If Hagakure is a part of like Class 1A, why can't Shinzo? Why can't Shinzo be in there? You know what I mean?
Minetta's cried in every single fight he's been a part of.
Yeah,
So-
okay, but Minetta's quirk is insane and he's good with it.
No,
right?
I know, but like in terms of like I'm not even from a quirk level, but from like a physical aspect of like how they do in a fight. I think
Yeah.
Shinzo is at a better point, if not, is at the same point, if not better, than someone like Mineta who is in Class A right now.
Yeah.
Who Mineta is very afraid of confrontation and will actually run away sometimes during fights, despite his quirk being good, and he still finds a way to use his quirk that helps in the end. But Shinzo is at a point where he's hesitant, but he's not afraid of the fight, which I think is, I wasn't trying. I shit on Mineta all the time, but no, I was actually using it as a real point of like a psychological point of where they stand in that. I think Mineta has almost better usage and when he really needs to of his quirk at this point. But in terms of mental state of being a hero and fighting when he needs to fight, Shinzo's at a better point than that.
I think absolutely though, because like if you think about Shinzo, I think he ranks. If you were to do a whole ranking of Class 1A, he ranks above Hagakure and Mineta for sure. Like if you were to rank them out, I think the difficult part is Mineta,
But not much more than that. He's still at the bottom of Class 1A.
Yeah, Mineta and
man.
Hagakure though have like utility to theirs, like being invisible. You can like do some rescue work, or you can get around the villains and whatnot. And even Mineta, like his ability can like I don't know, like hold up a bridge or whatnot. Shinzo is basically all fight. He has to kind of fight as a hero, like that. He doesn't have any like really
Or
utility.
interrogation. Like
Maybe
detective
no, he
kind
can't.
of approach.
He can't interrogate with his really.
he can't make them think.
Yeah, he
Oh.
can't really make them think.
It's
Can't ask
practical.
questions.
He
Yeah.
can only really fight and incapacitate,
Yeah.
which are really good, attributes of a hero, but he has to really lean into that and stacked against the other people of 1A who that is their thing. It's a little rough. It's definitely a little rough.
Yeah, because it's not like a pure combat quirk, right? Like it's really weird. And I mean, there's scenarios in like rescue work that he can do. If you have somebody who's absolutely losing their shit, like Shinzo can brainwash them and make them calm down. You know what I mean? Like he can I mean, they're probably not gonna be happy about it after the fact, but I mean, like he has that capability. His quirk, yes, where it is kind of linear, like you can apply it to a broad amount of things, but I think that's also kind of like a downfall for him too, is that it's very straightforward, it's very simple. And like I mean, he's kind of got to make up for it in other aspects, right? So like I think like I agree with Dylan, like he definitely would be ranked in Class 1A, but he's not anywhere as close to the top, right?
Yeah, but in a one-on-one fight where I mean, we've only seen him in fights where everyone knew exactly what his quirk was. You put him in an underground vigilante kind of style of hero work where he call
Oh,
what
yeah.
you do like he's in a dark shadow. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing over there, villain?" And the villain's gonna answer back, "Who are you?" Well, he's brainwashed and just what? So like if you think an actual practical hero work in one-on-one situations where he uses his voice changer, so no one's gonna know what his real voice sounds like. So they can't say, "Oh, that's the voice of Shinso. Be careful." So like I think in actual real one-on-one hero work, he's incredibly strong because unless they see him coming and know exactly what he looks like, you won't. Because even a lot of villains don't know what Aizawa looks like. So if you follow that same approach, I very
Yeah.
much think in real hero work he agrees. But when talking about class 1A and in this situation, he's in the bottom 10 out of the two classes combined.
S-
So
So the one thing I did want to take out of his like comment about how his quirk works is he said it doesn't really work through mics and whatnot and like amplification. But he said, I haven't really tried holding multiple people, which that is an
that
absolute
just
open for
opens
me
up.
of
Yep.
that is how he's going to do it. And I agree with you, Andrew. Like imagining him like going into this like underground like base, right? He's sitting in the shadow and he like says something and like a couple people respond and instantly he gets like five people incapacitated. I
Or
think that'd be
fighting for him.
yeah, or fighting for him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all you gotta do,
So-
like you get someone like Rappa, like the really strong guy from the Shihasuki. Obviously, he loves to talk. He loves to fight. That is the easiest thing, and that turns the entire events of that entire thing. If you get Rappa on your side for an hour, so like in situations like that, where even it's a very good support, and it's a very good one-on-one. So I agree. I think he deserves to be in the hero course. I don't think there's much he needs to do in the next fight to do it. When putting it, I mean, if even in the he's beating people in class 1A and class 1B for me right now. So obviously that just shows that he deserves to be it based on his mentality, his usage of his quirk, kind of his mentality of being a hero already puts it there. But I definitely think he can still show improvement. I mean, he's still behind physically and in a fighting capability, but he has everything that I need to see from him to be a good hero and survive in the hero course.
So, I don't know if we're gonna get a decision on like if he's in or not, like at the end of the last fight. But at some point we should probably make our own decision after we watch the last fight of where
Oh
whether or
yeah.
not we want him in and what we would do to put him into one of the
Who'd he
classes.
pump out?
Yeah, because actually, I think we were talking about this during the fanfic episode, but like a really common thing is like the fans actually kind of said this as well. They were like, "Yeah, let's put Shinzo into like one A," and every time any fanfic puts him in 1A, they always kick Mineta out.
I wonder why.
It's always Mineta.
They always kick Mineta out.
Yeah,
Also, another
shitty
thing I
grade,
noticed,
shitty performance, and he runs away from everything.
another thing I noticed with Mineta, I'm not going to go off on him too much, is they always use the like the asterisks in his eye to not spell him. So like I don't know if there's like a rabid group of Mineta fans out there that people don't want going to their posts, but it's there.
Did okay, so one small thing while we're on Mineta before we then we'll move on to actually kind of wrap
Oh
it
my
up.
god.
Is the little like grapevine thing new on his costume? Like there's a couple of times we guys saw shots of him. We have the balls, and then on just one of them, there's like a little Y thing that you kind of see of like the branches of the grape. Did you guys notice that at all?
I haven't noticed that now, but
Go
now
back and
I'm
watch
gonna go
it.
look for it. Yeah.
I think it's like the one change to his costume. But
Because
I
he's
kept
he's
seeing it
grape
every
rush,
time. Yeah,
so,
he's grape
yeah.
rush. So it makes sense. But all right. I think that's a good kind of wrap up for all that, which leads to our one last main segment of the show, which is our favorite, which is going to be the Plus Ultra Award for Season 5, Episode 4. Plus Ultra Award is where we decide one character from each episode, each one of us get a pick, that went beyond the Win Plus Ultra and stood out among everyone else in this episode. And Dylan, I'm going to let you make the first choice for this week's.
Oh man, this is really tough. I think this one is a tough one because so many people performed so well during this. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna say it. Sue. Sue gets it. Sue easily gets it. She racked up so many captures. She had like the frog goo going on, and she was like pretty like tactical in terms of like jumping around, having good vision in different places. And like I said, she captured a bunch of people
You know what, Dylan?
directly.
You know what I think about that? I fucking agree. Sue gets it. I mean, by far.
Let's
She has-
go.
I think she is all four captures were because of her. She grabbed Suabara. She knocked out she beat first off Edgy Boy and then threw him into Shishida, which contributed to both of those. And then sure, Shinso got the actual brainwash, but she pulled out Vine as well. All 4 captures don't happen without Sue there. She has to be the MVP.
It's
Easily.
Sue. Stay bad, James.
He's gonna pick Shishida because he doesn't want to pick Sue.
I wasn't gonna pick Shishida. I was gonna
Oh.
pick Shinso. I was gonna pick Shinso because it's Shinso's breakout performance. We didn't know how he was gonna do. I think like with somebody with a very linear quirk, new get up, new people he doesn't want to work with. I think he did really well.
No, he did well. He did well. Did he go plus ultra?
I think he went plus ultra for his first combat scenario. Absolutely. He was fighting against people who have a metric fuck ton of experience with their quirks. He's working with people who have a ton of experience, who have a degree of expectation of what their comrades are going to do. I think Shinso did really good. I think Sue towed the line. I think she did an expected amount of work that she should have. And you know what? You can't just hide an extra part of your quirk and then bust it out for this. All right? I think that's sus.
Listen. She has all the abilities of a frog, okay? You should have known she has frog goo.
Frog goo.
I can't.
Honorable mention to Suwabara for being an absolute degenerate.
Okay, fair. I'm like, you guys insult me when I do Deku. You call me a main character like Glover and all that kind of stuff.
You are a main character.
James loves the Doomers. He gave it to Shinso last week and this week, even though Shinso did basically nothing in both episodes. I mean, Dylan has a favorite. I have a favorite. I don't think we need to call it out, but I think it's just very apparent that James just has favorites, and he's going to skew the results of the.
Or I just don't like Sue that much. There's also that.
We know you hate Sue.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's not a question.
But... Don't back me into a corner.
So actually, sorry to derail this a little bit. I do want to talk about that though. Something I did catch, and I saw kind of a couple comments about it as well. Is Sue didn't really have the frog voice that much this episode?
No, she didn't.
They got rid of it. Thank God.
I don't know. I kind of liked it. She just sounded like a normal person, and I was like,
thank God.
I don't like this. I wanted the frog voice. That's her gimmick.
She's going to be a rescue hero, and like all of a sudden you're under rubble, and someone runs up to you and starts saying, "Ribbit, I'm here to help you." Ribbit, are you gonna feel safer?
Because you would be like, wow, it's Froppy, the rescue hero, here to save me with her iconic ribbits.
The rainy season hero.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna have a shtick, you gotta double down. Keep the Kuros, keep the ribbits, like all that stuff. Like that is her, right? So
I disagree, but
she's awful, but it's her. So
all right. With that, I think we are going to wrap up this week's episode of the Class 1A podcast. If you guys do have any questions or anything you ever want us to walk through on a certain episode, on the previous week's episode, general topics, don't forget to send that over on Instagram or Twitter at both at Class 1A Pod, or send an email to contact@poppetoff.com. We're always reading through that and always happy to include any questions you guys send in to talk about. Even like 2 weeks ago, we did the Muriel one. Really happy to talk about anything you guys want to dive into. But with that, we're going to be wrapping up today's episode of the Class 1A podcast. Thank you so much for watching and listening along. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as we did. And we will be back here next Saturday for Season 5 with the beginning of the second fight of the joint training arc. We will see you all then.